Well, we have a pop-up on the 12th and the 13th at a coffee shop called Viet 5 for both days during that weekend.
Ooh,
So,
that weekend?
yep.
Ooh, okay, then I'll go then. Yeah, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Week after we have one at side practice, and then the week after that we have a BAP event thing.
VIP.
Yeah. So the
Dang,
alumni event, we're gonna cater for them.
dang. Nice, nice.
Yeah. Should
Cool.
be exciting, man. Things are moving.
Yeah.
I guess, sort of on my end, we have I feel like every time I talk to you, like it feels like an eternity has passed, but like only a week has passed. Um, there's a couple things that happened. We got our license. We tested out our shared kitchen. It was terrible. It was a nightmare. The kitchen itself was great. But like Jimmy and I had no idea how hard it would be. Also, it was like 100 degrees outside that day.
Mm,
So the kitchen was really hot, but then also like, we just had no idea how to use the space. And
mm,
so we had like 4 or 5 people helping us, or like including us too, like 4 or 5 people total. We just had to make like 25 rolls and 20 orders of chicken, and like we barely got that done. And like if we made it at home, we would have gotten it done no problem. But I think because we were so unfamiliar with the kitchen and like we forgot a couple things, and then like we ended up having to go back home, and then that delayed us a little bit, and then we didn't realize how long cleaning would take. Um, it was a nightmare. I think I'm gonna have nightmares about that day. I have two nightmares about this starting this business. One is the first day that we took 50 orders of kimbap. Me and Jimmy have never done 50 rolls, and we took that as our first order. And we basically spent the entirety of the day rolling and making it, and we were still late by an hour and a half. It was intense. Um, the second was probably yesterday, or sorry, Saturday, when we did the testing of the kitchen. We like rented it from 9 to 3 o'clock or something like that. And man, like it was just a very, very stressful ordeal because at the beginning it was fine. We were like, we know how to do this, and then we realized we had no idea how to use this. Some of the equipment that we bought, like the pans that we bought, were way too big. So like we couldn't realistically use them, but then that means that we didn't have enough pans, and so then we would have to like use one and then like wash it and then
mm,
use it again. We also didn't know how to use the space very well. Like we didn't prep enough, and so all of our ingredients, like we had to prep, and you know how many ingredients go into kimbap. It's like all of it had to be prepped that day, and so it was an absolute nightmare. And so then right after that too, is like I had to go to work on Saturday, and that was probably like one of the worst days at work, just because I was so tired and like I was pretty down on myself, felt pretty bad for myself. Because it was basically it was two things. One is a lack of experience, which there's nothing we can do about, and then two is the lack of planning, which we definitely could have done something about. Um, But yeah, and so Saturday was pretty bad. I gave myself that day to feel bad, and then yesterday we just did a bunch of got back right to it. So made a ton of changes here now. We bought some storage space at the facility because we also realized transportation is a pain because we
mm,
literally lug all of our equipment back and forth, and we're like, this is just not realistic at all.
yeah.
And so we bought some storage space over there. We have some refrigeration space and we have some dry storage space. So I'm gonna tomorrow I rented a car. I'm gonna actually transport all of our equipment over there early.
Mm,
And um, this time around, we are gonna prep a lot. Like we're gonna prep on Thursday and Friday to get ready for Saturday.
mm.
And then Saturday we're gonna start at 4 a.m. And so hopefully that will give us enough time to make it's gonna be about 100 rolls before 11.
Wow. And yeah, just help me get up to speed. So these Saturdays, these are currently not the pre-orders that we saw recently on the Instagram page. It's your just orders that you're getting personally, right?
No, this past Saturday we actually didn't have an order, but we wanted to test the shared kitchen. So Mr. Tiger, the place that I work at, was
Hmm.
gracious enough to just allow us to make an order for them. They obviously paid for it,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
um, so we did an order for their family meal, and
Hmm.
um, yeah, it was good. I mean, I will say because we were so unexperienced with it, and like our rice cooker is massive. we dropped it the other day, but thankfully it still works.
Okay.
Like we didn't know how to season it, so then the seasoning was off, and so the food taste was a little bit different. The
Mm.
person that we had helping us was sort of new to rolling the way that we roll, and so then some of the rolls, structurally weren't as
Oh.
tight. But like that's my fault. And so there's just a lot. Like basically, we didn't know anything, um, like anything.
Mm-mm-mm.
So um, definitely took us for a spin. Definitely put a shock to our system. So like we've basically just made a lot more investments in things. So like we bought also a cooler because it gets so hot in that kitchen. And so I worried a little bit about things going bad really fast.
Mm.
So we're gonna take a cooler, we're gonna have some ice, and then we're gonna put some ice on the bottom of things and make things cooler. We bought a lot more like pans, smaller pans. We bought a couple more cutting boards, just like very little things, but these little things. And then I think we're gonna think about a plan, like a game plan for how we do stations at the kitchen because we have so much space, we just don't know how to use it at all. And so literally on Saturday, it was just we had so much counter space and we just left stuff everywhere and like we were getting lost on where to find things and stuff like that. So like I think Jimmy and I really we just need to take some time to figure out, okay, this is going to be the station for this. Like if we need this, this is where it goes and this doesn't move from the spot so that we always know where to go.
Mm.
And then like, Jimmy ended up not having like Jimmy basically used a pan that was too big for the chicken. And so then the heat didn't get hot enough. And so then Jimmy was struggling to cook the chicken. Thankfully, it was still really good, but um, yeah, I think we just we just had a lot of struggles. And then
Mm.
cleaning was really stressful because there was somebody coming in after us, and we had no idea how to clean, and so then that took forever.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, there's always things where it's like when you do things the first time, it's always going to be rough. But I think I took it pretty hard. I think there's just sometimes those days where it's like it was a lot harder than we expected.
Mm.
Um, so hopefully this time around we made a lot of modifications and we're going to try it again and see how things go. And we're thinking that it's going to be better for sure. It better be better. And then we're thinking probably by the third or fourth time, I'm sure we'll have sort of a system that we made and we have in place that makes things easier for us.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of moving components there, as you mentioned, just like transportation, just making, cooking, recipes, equipment. There's, yeah, a lot of things. I mean, we all look at those cooking movies where the chef just kind of sits and then everyone just kind of work in machines and then does the last touches. But I guess in the current situation, you and Jimmy have to pay attention to everything. So that's the
Yeah.
difficult part.
Yeah, I mean we have to learn everything, right? It's like we don't know what we're doing. We don't know the timing of things, we don't know. The learning curve is very steep,
Mm.
sort of as expected. And I was like, if we didn't do that test run, man, we would have been real screwed for this week. So I'm very glad we did it. There's a lot of things we learned from it. Um, so yeah, we're just gonna go back at it and slam our head against the wall again and just keep trying. But yeah, it definitely took a little bit of a toll on me.
Mm.
Especially because that Saturday I had to go right after that I had to go work for another 7 hours. Um, but like it was probably worse for Jimmy because he actually had to come back home and do all the dishes because we didn't have enough time to do the dishes. So like he brought back all the stuff and did all the dishes in our in our little sink. Um, so I'm sure he didn't have a great time with that either. But
Uh, uh,
I guess this is what it takes, right? Like sometimes, I think there are very few moments where I'm like, wow, like there are certain comforts about doing a 9 to 5. Um, and I've never once been like, oh, I think that sounds like a better life. But then in that Saturday, man, I was like, I don't know
mm.
if this is right.
Mm.
But I think this is the thing that I'm learning too is just there will be many days like that, I think. And like even the pre-order, we launched it this morning. We're pretty much sold out of everything, which is really great. I will say most of it is from friends, which which is great.
That's how it all starts.
Yeah, I would say we put a cap on everything. So I would say the only one that's not sold out is the veggie one.
Mm.
And so because that's the only one left, I don't really think people want just the veggie one, which makes sense. I think the veggie one's probably one of the best we have. But if I was a paying customer, I'd rather get meat. And so
Mm.
I think next pre-order, we're gonna up the count on all the meat ones and then lower the count on the veggie.
Mm.
Um, but regardless, we are pretty much sold out. We sold out probably within a few hours, which is really good.
Wow.
Um, but I mean, to be fair, it wasn't like a lot of food, but I will say most of it was from friends, which is fine. And then hopefully once we start selling, which I think is actually probably better at the beginning, once we start catering to strangers, I think the bar is even higher because they're
Mm.
all our friends. I think they'll, there's an air of leniency. Although granted, like we for sure don't think of it that way because they've paid the same amount of money,
Hmm.
uh, and so we have to treat it that way.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I would say I like basically slept all day today. I had a lot of stuff to do, but like this morning, as soon as Jimmy and I launched the pre-order, and then we spent probably a few hours checking in on things and just making sure things were okay. I basically from like noon until like 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. I was just in bed, like dozing on and off. And
Mm.
um, now I'm awake, and now I don't know if you can see, but there's like hordes of kitchen equipment. Like it doesn't really show. Like and then there's like boxes and boxes of like
Wow.
there's a sidewalk sign. Basically, what we have to do now is we have to stay like hyper organized because what we also realized on Saturdays is we're not organized at all, and so we need to keep a stock list of all of our ingredients, how much we have, how much we need, stock list of all the equipment. Because what ended up happening was we forgot a couple of equipment pieces that were like really important. Like we forgot the vegetable peeler, and it's like we literally can't do that with it. I mean, we could do it with a knife, but like we're not
No,
it
yeah.
takes forever.
Yeah.
And so I literally had to come back home, bring the vegetable peel and go back. And I was like, that took like an hour.
Oh.
It really wasn't an hour. It was like 45 minutes. But plus they asked me to pick up some coffee. And so then it ended up being like an hour. But then I was like,
Hmm.
that's crazy. And so we ended up starting at like 11 a.m. when in reality we probably should have we booked the time from 9. So like we should have been going at 9.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, little things like that. Just every second, every minute counts, I think is what we're learning. And
Hmm.
the pre-order is now done, and so we have an order for the Saturday, which is exciting. We're probably going to do another pre-order for this next week, upcoming week, and then the week after that, we're going to be doing um, pop-ups, and so we'll
Yeah.
probably do maybe anywhere between 150 to 200 rolls, and then we're going to go and sell that at the cafes. And then we're going to do that again on the week after, and we're going to probably layer in some pre-orders. My big thing, and this is sort of what Jimmy and I keep going back and forth on, is whether we go on delivery platforms or not.
Mm.
My thinking is that I think we should go on delivery platforms, and that way we can go for multiple days, and like our sort of like logistics is actually a lot easier with the delivery platforms because we don't handle any of the delivery, and literally someone will come pick it up from us and they'll take it to where it needs to go.
Mm.
I will say though, like they do take a fat percentage. Like realistically, I don't know how much money we'd be making, if at all. So, but then then again, the counterbalance to that is you reach your audience is so much bigger because you reach so much more people. And so a lot of the people that do kimbap here in Chicago, they actually do it at farmers markets and they do really well because the people that they just go to the farmers markets. And so you naturally have an audience that will want some of your food. Whereas if you do something like a pre-order, it's actually pretty hard to reach people.
Yep.
Um, and so I think that's what we're starting to realize of like it's great that it's most of our friends that are doing this, but realistically we need to get out there. And so we also have a couple influencers that one of the team members knew, and so we're gonna give them some roles for free, and hopefully they'll do like a post or they'll do some sort of review on it. Um, but yeah, that's sort of what's upcoming.
Mm. Yeah, there's once again, yeah, so many moving parts and must be a lot of work and on your end with Jimmy there. Mm.
Yeah, I will say I think now everything is about operations.
Yeah.
I think we severely underestimated how hard operations would be.
Yeah.
Like we
Oh.
always do, like in theory, right? You always know like operations super important. In theory, the food is really important. In theory, everything, like everything. Like in theory, the costs are supposed to be low. You're supposed to get as much reach as possible. But realistically, doing that stuff is incredibly hard. And so, the idea of even operationally, like how do you set up? the kitchen where it's optimal for you to make kimbap versus Jimmy needs fried kitchen. We have two hands. We had a guy that we bought the kimbap equipment from that was like he did 120 rolls by himself. Granted, he didn't do any chicken, but like that's an insane number of rolls to be making by one person.
Wow.
And then we asked him like, why didn't you ever consider doing more than 120? Like, did you think about hiring somebody? And he was like, that's like that's it. That's like the max. Um, and I get what he's saying because last Saturday we basically made 40 rolls between like 4 or 5 people, and we barely made that. Um,
Wow. Yeah. I think yeah, your point about like operation and how actually key it is to just producing good output. So my roommate is actually in film. And so like he comes in the house with like 7, 8 people sometimes. And it's a whole crew for this video. And for them, it's like, money and time spent on taking shots for these films, especially like at a certain time when the light is good, whatever. And I realized everyone has like a very specific role. Like one person is like in charge of just asking people to follow the schedule.
yeah,
That's literally their job.
yeah,
So yeah, I think and I think a lot of different roles kind of all come together, and especially at your current situation where like you have to wear many hats, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
insane.
now that we're actually going, like it's scary. It's there. I think there's a lot of like emotions with it.
Hmm.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's kind of tough. Like this, I think this week there was just a lot of ups and downs.
Hmm.
But it's good. Like Jimmy and I were talking, I think it was this morning or yesterday, but it's like if you realistically, if we take a step back, it's been officially 3 months since I quit my job at Bain.
Wow.
It's been literally 3 months. And we've come quite a long way. Like it does I don't know what people's perception is, but to come from a concept to selling in 3 months to me is a pretty big win, especially at scale. And we're going to be selling at scale soon. Um, and so yeah, I mean, go from going from like out of the blue orders, just like taking in random orders here and there to being a little bit more systemized. And now you're thinking about how to go on Uber Eats and like how do we think about marketing and even the media portion. We have videos that are coming up. And so for a while we didn't really focus on the reels and short form content just because we didn't have that much capacity. But like now our story's back to being interesting where like we actually have updates, right? Like we've tried the share kitchen, like we bought a whole bunch of equipment. Um, so like we'll have a lot more fun content, I think, that's coming out.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think yeah, especially when you're in the weeds of stuff, it's kind of hard to see, how much things uh you know how far you've come.
Yeah, I think it's like it's a tough thing because there you at least for me, like I don't really look back, right? Like we always like to look forward about
Mm,
all the things we have to do. Like even tonight, like I have to make a stock inventory of all the equipment that we have, of all the ingredients that we have, how much do we have of it, so that tomorrow I can go grocery shopping. Tomorrow in the morning, also, I'm gonna go to the coffee shop that we're doing a pop up in the middle of July, just so I can see the space and say hello to the person that's gonna help us out with it. And so like there's just all these thoughts about like, and then I work on Wednesday and Thursday the whole day. So like I'm thinking about what do we need to prep ahead of time that we can get rid of and like we can actually like make a schedule and adhere to. And then on Saturday, like who can I ask for help? Because like last week we asked a couple people for help, but I don't know they don't work in a commercial kitchen, so like I don't know how much of a fun time they had. And also, um, I think they might be busy. So then it's like we have a couple other friends that are I'm sure willing to help out, but then it just becomes a matter of like it's just sort of like a I don't know. In my I think my head is there's just a lot of thoughts, I think. So
mm,
but yeah. Yeah. We also bought a ton of kitchen. There's like more boxes on the right hand side, but like we bought a ton of cleaning equipment, and I'm like, they have cleaning equipment at the kitchen. So I was like, I guess we didn't need to buy that. So there's like little things like that where it's like all sunk costs. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's good. I guess I'm excited to see what we can do now that we know things a little bit better. I'm sure we'll still have our hiccups this Saturday. And I think even for us, when we first started out and actually were making things for people, by the third or fourth time, I think we were sort of getting used to things. I think even the second and third time was a little bit rough. So I'm imagining a similar learning curve here. So
Mm.
guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think the thought of that every actions from, since you're 3 months from, back in 3 months, all your actions really lead up to, like a direct output. I think, that's a good thing, but also kind of scary sometimes because, you're taking that responsibility. So
Yeah.
I think that must be pretty difficult.
Yeah, I think food is also because everyone has an opinion and like food is so approachable that like everybody has an opinion and it is so easy to be judgmental of food um and critical of food, right? And so but that's what we signed up for. And I still, I'm still happy where I'm at. I think we just got to keep going and I think now is when it's going to start to get hard because also even with this pre-order, we were honestly hoping that we would sell out pretty quick. Um, we still technically haven't sold out because we still have a few veggie rolls and a few like chicken that we can sell. But even things like that is just like then we're like, oh, is the demand not actually there, or is it just the fact that we're not reaching the right people? Which that's way too early to tell. But like those things, there's like seeds of those thoughts and worries in there somewhere.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's the uncertainty part of it is definitely kind of scary sometimes.
Yeah. Got to get used to it. It's only been 3 months, so And then once we start selling, I think now the timer clock, like technically in my mind, now we've actually started. So like today or this Saturday is going to be day one, and then to me, then we start to see like, okay, how much can we sell throughout the summer? What do we do during the winter? Do we look for a brick and mortar? And then what happens in what happens next year? How do we come up with better food? Like how do we sell better? How do we become better operationally? Who do we need to hire? Things like that, I think.
Hmm.
But could always use a couple extra hands, Paul.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, sort of where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, since you've lived through that, week and you're kind of, expanding on what happened in this short, period of time. I mean, I'm getting a taste of what you experienced, so I'm just processing, trying to understand, wow, like that must have been a lot at that moment since, throughout the week there must have been a lot of ups and downs as you mentioned. And I think I do kind of get a feel for the same aspect of like sometimes, there's like doubts in your own head sometimes, just like, oh, like especially with, what you mentioned about the cleaning equipment. Oh, that's another sunk cost. And then I could have, used that money on some other stuff and blah, 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 and it kind of leads down that road. So yeah, must have been yeah, I mean it's yeah, it must be pretty tough. And it seems like you're really trying to focus on, what's ahead. I think that's really important. And hopefully, that's aligned with Limia's Jimmy as well.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy has a very good mentality, I think. Sometimes he helps pull me out of some. Yeah, it's kind of weird because like on a grand scale, I'm very happy where we're at. Like on a grand scale, you just take a step back and it's like overall, it's great. Like we have food that we think tastes good. Um, Still can always be improved. I think always food, has room for improvement and we will make improvements and we'll also probably put in new menu items that are actually going to be, very tasty and people will want. Um, I think it's just at the micro level, like, because we sort of we discuss very minute details of everything, right? Like the very basic things to, how many spoons and what size spoons do we want and do we want this font or do we want that font? Is this purple box right or do we want this purple box as like text, on a screen? Like even for the menu, it's like, do we want this lettering here? Do we put the dollar sign in? Do we not put the dollar sign in? Like the discussions that we as a team have are so detail focused And so sometimes it's hard to pull yourself out of that and be like, wow, we are, we have a first pre-order coming up very soon. Um,
Yeah.
and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm probably thinking that maybe this Sunday after the first pre-order on Saturday, we'll probably celebrate a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what we're gonna do, but Sunday I think we'll probably look to do something a little bit, for the team and just get together and debrief.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah,
So
just kind of was a thought. Maybe maybe there's always a thing called decision fatigue, right? So like every minor detail kind of needs your approval, your thought, your talk with Jimmy, another sit down, brainstorming, and all that. So yeah, I'm assuming that that really piles up a lot. And you're kind of thinking your decision, your ideas 24/7, when you're working, maybe in your break times. So
yeah, I think that's right. I think there's always a constant thought about like even like earlier today, Jimmy and I were thinking about like what size pot do we need? Because there's 40 quart and there's an 80 quart, but we need a really big pot.
yeah,
But then we're like, we don't know how big 40 quarts or 80 quarts is. Like we don't know what they look like, but you have to make a decision because
yeah,
it's not like we can sample it and then give it back, right? You have
yeah.
to buy it and see it. I mean, obviously, I guess I could go in the kitchen like like I go in Mr. Tiger and ask them what's what. But I think there's always a thing between making a decision and time. And maybe I guess if you take it one step further, there's the idea of the available information and data that you have
Hmm.
versus the data that you don't have, and then the time that it would take you to require the time that it would take you to acquire that data or information
Yeah,
is not worth the height, and the level of that decision is not high enough to warrant that much attention being
right.
brought. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
as an example, this pot thing, like I could have gone in, I could have done, I could have looked at, like I could have gone into any restaurant and been like, can I see a 40 quart versus an 80 quart pot? But like the effort of me doing that is not worth just picking one and just finding out, right?
Mm.
Uh, although I will say pots are expensive, so maybe we should have reconsidered. Um, but we ended up going with a 40 quart just as a TMI. So hopefully we'll see if that's big enough.
Yeah. No, one thing that kind of pops in my head is, currently you're running under a pretty lean team, a lot of help and support, which every beginning could look like that. And I'm just excited, man, just to see that like, this week is going to be your first pre-order. You're gonna go for it. You're gonna, sometimes stumble. You said you're gonna get up again, and as you grow and as you get more, great talents on your team, I'm just excited to see how that's gonna grow. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to that one day. I don't know when that's gonna be, and really hope that'll be soon. But yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
excited, man. That's I
Yeah.
think these thoughts will serve you well.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think years. I'm thinking years. I think the timeline has to be long.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a while. So
Hey, at least like, one edition, two edition, that's still pretty big, especially if that means they're, either full time or at least some sort of level like Jimmy. So,
yeah,
yeah, looking forward to that. And especially this week, yeah, let me know. And looking forward to all the new posts about the pickup, in person, right? So this week.
mhm.
So very excited for that.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate it. Well, I'll update you on how things go next week.
Yeah. Yeah. Take care and enjoy your time.
Sounds good. Will do.
Yep. See you next week.
See ya.